I'd like to call to order the Morton Grove Public Library Board of Trustees regular meeting, May 16th at 7:10. If we could stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
Trustee Burke, present. Trustee Kelmag.
Present.
Trustee Goldstein.
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez. Can we use trustee Gonzalez?
Not yet.
Trustee Novick.
Yes.
Trustee Peters. And trustee Elders.
Here. All right, approval of the minutes of the board meeting of April 18, 2013. Can I have a motion to approve? And a
Second.
second. Questions, comments, or changes? If none, Paul, would you call the roll?
I will. Trustee Kelmag.
Present here.
Trustee Goldstein. Trustee Novick.
Yes.
Trustee Peters is absent. Okay. Trustee Elders.
Yes.
Trustee Burke, yes.
All right, the approval of the minutes. All right, approval of the minutes of the special meeting of February 14, 2013. Can I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second? Is there a second?
Burke. I second.
Yes, thank you.
It's February the
14.
There was a special meeting we held that we focused on building issues, and I needed to get the draft typed up for our audit for the
Any comments, questions, changes? If none, can I have you call a roll?
Trustee Goldstein.
Here.
Trustee Novick.
Yes.
Trustee Elders.
Yes.
Trustee Burke, yes. Trustee Calhoun.
Yes.
Okay, we have a resolution 2013-01, which would be the official certification of the results of the April 9, 2013 consolidated election. So can I have a motion to approve
Motion to
the
approve.
election results?
Motion to approve resolution 2013-1.
And a second?
Okay.
Trustee Novick. Second from trustee Novick.
Yes.
All right. Can you call the roll to approve that, Paul?
I will. Trustee Elders.
Yes.
Trustee Burke, yes. Trustee Calhoun.
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein.
Here. Yes.
Trustee Novick.
Yes.
And that one passes. Do we have the, Sure.
This is the official,
You want to do the oaths now?
this
Sure.
is the official resolution that both you and Mark need to sign and date. If you're gonna nurse the oaths, if you want, or Mark.
either way? Okay.
This is last.
I have the three official oaths for our brand new board member, but then also for trustee Novick and trustee Calhoun.
All right.
I don't know if you want to start with it here. You want to,
Yeah, we could. Would you all three like to rise and we'll do this at one time? You want to raise your right hand and state after me. I, state your name,
I, David Kellyman,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the rules, regulations, and ordinances of the Village of Morton Grove,
the rules, regulations, and ordinances of the Village of Morton Grove,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of library trustee
and that I will faithfully
Discharge.
to all the duties of the office
Office of
Library trustee.
Library trustee.
of the Village of Morton Grove to the best of my ability.
Village of Morton Grove to the best of my ability.
Well, congratulations.
And welcome.
That's fine.
Words.
And then I'll need each of you
Want
to
to
sign
sign
these
that?
and then return them to,
Welcome back, Doc.
I think there's a place for
Welcome back.
Mark to sign as well, but,
Copper.
those
welcome
are
back.
the official oaths and
Okay.
they stay
Thank
in
you.
our files. So once you sign them, if you return them to Mark so he can sign them, then we can keep them in our official board files.
What's the date today? 16.
16th of May.
16th of May.
Okay. First is around.
Alrighty, welcome board. So, public comments on agenda items only? If there are none, okay, there is no president's report, treasurer's report in Kathy's absence.
There was actually no finance committee meeting this past week because there was not a quorum reached. There's nothing out of the ordinary this month in the treasurer's report. You did see all of the financial information. Does anyone have any questions before I mention just a couple of brief things? And certainly trustee Gonzalez, I know that's all pretty new to you, I would imagine, so if there's anything that you have questions on, feel free to ask, or even if you want to touch base with me at another time, if you take it home and review it further, whatever. I'm always available.
Is the petty cost always 250 from month to month?
I'm sorry? The what?
Silly.
Oh.
It's those new guys.
He
He ain't a new guy.
I've seen that we don't really hold a lot of cash. We paid $369 to Schmaus Cash Register Company. What's that?
Well, we did, the reason we're paying so much to them, or the reason that is so high right now is because we have had multiple problems with that cash register. And of course, the problems began the month after it was out of warranty. No lie.
I don't know how they do
Um,
that.
I used to coach
there is-
against that guy, and he was
There is, we are actually looking into alternate ways of handling our cash. We have been looking into an iPad cash station setup, as a number of stores are starting to have now. The issue, according to Schmaus technicians, is that where the cash register is, there's power surges. We've not had any, we haven't had previous problems with that, and we don't have any problems with the computers that are plugged into those same outlets, so we're a little leery, but it's been working fine for now, but there is some special charges because we did have to have a number of visits from them, and then also that $369 includes our annual maintenance, which was $150. So normally you would only do about $150, but as I said, we are starting to look into some alternative things that we may institute starting next fiscal year.
the old-fashioned cash register.
Yeah. Trust me, there were days that we were tempted to do that, give everyone abacuses and rocks and would be done with it or something, so.
Like at my house.
Yeah, so that's why that is a little bit higher than it normally is, because we've had some problems with that. The only other thing that I did want to point out, and we're not doing too badly right now, but this may change as time goes on too, the automation budget, that is a little bit higher percentage used. The new computers that we had to get for the administration office in order to run the new accounting software did come out of that budget for now. So, Assistant Director Justine and I are meeting not next week, I won't be here, the week after, to discuss what expenses still need to come out of that line and what we can anticipate possibly going over due to that unexpected cost of new PCs. So I did want to point that out as well. The other thing that comes in high a lot, or people look at and think is high, are the database statistics. Again, for those of you that have been on the board for a while, you know that often is because those are one-time bills and they all come due at a certain time, so that should stabilize as the year goes on. We did actually, get a donation, I believe it was this past month, of $500, $250, $500? 500 to, from an anonymous donor to be used for the purchase of Korean and Russian materials. So, Natalia's working on that.
Nice.
Yeah. The other thing that is not reflected on your PMA statements that we can talk about, I think, more, and we'll talk about with other agenda items when we get down to the roof and the furnace replacement. We did have a maturity come due a couple weeks ago, and I apologize for not remembering the exact date, but it was in May, so it does not show up on the April financial statements, of $200,000. Tim Matthews, our representative that we work with at PMA, called and asked me if I wanted to reinvest or if I needed any of that money transferred into Illinois funds. I had him reinvest half of it and transfer $100,000 into Illinois funds in anticipation of the furnace and or possibly the roof. So next month's statement will reflect $100,000 less, and that knowing that we were going to have some fairly substantial costs associated with the furnace replacement and possibly the roof. So, you know, if those things don't end up, if the board doesn't choose to move forward with one or both of those, that money can always be transferred back. But just, as I said, for now, it does not show up in May, or in April, but it will show up in May. And obviously I'll talk more about that as we reach those agenda items. Does anyone else have any questions about the financial statements or cash receipts or cash statement? We are on track with the new accounting software. Kevin and I are meeting with the technology rep from Sikich, who's a company we've been working with. For Trustee Gonzalez, we are actually getting all our new accounting software to run all of the accounts payable and everything out of the administration office based on some recommendations of our accountant and auditor. And so they're recommending a new software. So we're meeting with the tech rep on the 28th, I believe, and then we'll schedule the install, and then after the installation will be start the training on the new system. So it's going to be a busy summer.
Okay, that would conclude the treasurer's report. So could I have a motion to accept that report?
It's your turn.
Well, I make a motion that we accept the report in lieu of waiting till next month to revise.
All right.
I'll second that.
No further discussion. Can you call the roll?
Trustee Albers?
Yes?
Trustee Berg? Yes. Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein? Trustee Gonzalez?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Trustee Novick?
Yes.
There we go. We got 6-0 and no absence.
All right, committee reports. I don't believe we had any meetings this last month, so back to you, Director.
I don't really have anything that I want to highlight outside of my written director's report. So most of the things that I do have to talk about, we are going to come up under unfinished business and new business. So nothing to add to the written report at this time. Just checking my notes to make sure I didn't jot something down that I wanted to say.
We're good? All right. Anything from corporate counsel?
Just in addition to the motion, the resolution accepting the canvas results, you have another resolution before you this evening to establish the non-resident user fee for the coming year. And as provided in the Illinois Code, the library is authorized to establish a non-resident user fee, and there's a formula in the Illinois administrative provisions, and so Pam has calculated that out based upon the taxes that the Martin Grove residents pay, and the purpose of the non-resident user fee is to ensure that non-residents will pay the same amount that Martin Grove residents pay through their taxes to use the library. Now, Pam will probably be able to expound more, but if you were part of a participating or cooperating library, you'd be able to you're a non-resident, but you're able to be treated as a resident.
This isn't just an issue in Morton Grove as much as it is for other communities that have larger unincorporated areas, that they're not actually considered part, they don't fall within the library's district boundaries. So we don't see too many of these, hardly ever. In fact, I've been polling staff and they can't actually tell me the last time they saw one come in. But as Frank says, it basically is to ensure that someone coming in wanting to get a card would pay the same amount or commensurate amount that someone who's paying taxes into the village would for library services.
That's interesting, because Northbrook, the unincorporated areas are paying $650.
There's a couple different ways that, and it's, well, as with any of these types of taxes, it's based on your property taxes, so the value of your home certainly plays into it, and, you know, what the overall value of property within the village and stuff. It's all the EAV, so, you know. There's also two different, the law also allows two different ways that you configure the non-resident fee. You can figure it on a case-by-case basis and require people to actually bring in their property tax bill so you can look at their assessed value, and then there's a formula that you use. There's also a mathematical formula that you can use an average, and that's what Morton Grove chooses to do. And I believe that I've included pages, some documents from last year when the board had set this as well that does talk a little bit more about the formula that's used to do that. Basically, it's the tax receipts divided by the number of resident, or divided by something else. I can see the number, but I can't remember exactly what it is.
The
And then-
estimated census,
Estimated, yeah, and then it's divided by the
average number of persons per
yes,
household.
it's the
rounded
taxes
to-
divided by the census figure,
Yeah.
multiplied by the average number of
Persons
people
per
in the household. So that comes out to $345. So if someone came in and wanted to purchase a non-resident card, which would give them service here at the library, allow them to have full use of the library, that's what they would have to pay us.
Is that just non-residents in Morton Grove?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes,
doesn't-
the non-resident law in Illinois is a little convoluted, I think. And the thing is that so many of these different districts don't necessarily, they're not necessarily the same. So for example, the fire district is different than the park district, different than the, abatement district, different than the library district, the school districts, those kinds of things. So that is just for Morton Grove residents. There is a guideline, if you will, from the state that if you are within a certain number of miles away, that kind of determines what your closest home library would be. So if you're in an area that's unincorporated, you have the ability to say, oh, I might be closer to this library or this library, and then you would have that option of choosing one of those two libraries. But usually the state, the guideline is that it's the one that's closest to you, which is your home
So
library.
it doesn't affect any interest in the whole library?
No, no.
That was, okay.
And that resolution, did I not?
No, if you have it under new business.
Okay. I
Yeah,
have
it's
it
further
under-
down.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm not here.
Frank is stealing your thunder.
That's fine.
Exactly.
So yeah, so that's under new business, and when it comes then, we'll ask you to approve that motion, now that we've explained it a little further.
Yeah. All righty, that would conclude corporate counsel's report. So, moving on to unfinished business, you are on again.
The first item was just a reminder, mostly for, again, trustee Gonzalez. In your packets is the trustee orientation program sign-up sheet. I know that trustee Novick is interested in going to that. I did want to open that invitation up again before I register her, so that if I have to register, so I can register everyone at the same time if anyone else is interested in
So we
going.
need to fill out the.
No, I have that, I have yours already. So if anyone is interested in that, I do need to do that relatively soon. The library will pay for that. It is an all-day session, there's one, the two Saturdays.
I have previously attended several of them, and they're very worthwhile.
July 20 and August 3.
Mhm. So, trustee Gonzalez, if this is something you're interested in doing, just let me know which session you may be interested. If not, as I said, trustee Novick is going, and she can certainly, I would think, would be happy to share with us what she learned.
It's like all day.
It is an all-day.
It takes all day to get there.
Is it Dominican?
Couldn't they find a nearer place?
Is it at Dominican?
It's
There is-
River,
there's one in
Forest, or
Dominican,
Elgin.
This one is
And then
Elgin.
one, there's also one in
The one I
California.
could go to is in Elgin.
Yeah,
You know,
so
the one I-
there's a choice.
Is in River Forest, but I'm
They're
just
both
saying.
convenient.
River Forest is actually.
I go to the-
Actually, I'm gonna be in Cleveland on the other one, so it's very far.
So just a reminder about that, so if someone is interested, to let me know so I can, if I don't hear from anyone within the next week and a half or so, I'll go ahead and get trustee Novick registered so that you'll be all set. But as I said, just let me know if that's something you're interested in.
All right, yeah, carpet replacement, it's underway.
It's underway, as you saw. The choice of color was actually based on youth services staff input as well as a number of patrons. So, but we have gotten multiple positive comments about this, and I think a lot of people are excited to start to see some of the physical changes. I'm excited. I think it turned out really well. I have to say the installers from Empire were wonderful to work with, so I'm very excited and pleased that we did choose them because I think that will make the big project go much smoother because they were so easy to work with. So also the elevator carpet has come up and there's tile in there. If you have not taken the elevator, you might want to just open it and
I
see.
have a question about that.
Mhm.
The framing that's underneath the door.
And the elevator
And
is
the
dirty.
elevator is
Yes.
filthy, I would say.
Yes.
Is
Well,
there any way to get it cleaned up?
Yes, there is a way to get that cleaned up. I have talked to Claude about that. There is I think it's aluminum and there are cleaners. The problem with that is that there was duct tape over that. I know that.
Duct tape? No.
I know, duct
Yeah,
tape.
you also,
The other thing that we discovered when the carpet was pulled up in the elevator is that the floor was uneven in there. So they actually did have to put a thin layer of cement to even out the floor for the tile because it's a little less forgiving than carpet.
edge
So
around. Is there any way to give it a more finished look?
we can look into that. I will certainly ask
I know
the,
there's metal plates
Sure.
and so it's
Sure.
kind of hard
we can look into that if that's something the board would like
I,
me to do.
I just noticed that
Okay.
it popped out.
Okay. I will look into that
I'm
and,
not saying it's critical, but any edge that's open makes me worried that it's gonna be eventually come loose there.
I don't anticipate it will. I did see them put that
Yeah.
down, but
Oh, I doubt it
certainly
would.
if,
I doubt it
you know,
would.
I mean, I can certainly, you know, and if aesthetics too, if the board wants
Yes.
something a little more aesthetically pleasing, we can, there are
I like the
trim,
tile.
those sorts of things. The tile I think turned out really nice. But yes, I certainly think there's
Good
something that
color.
we can
Hire somebody with a design degree here.
do.
That's what you got.
The youth services will be that same color as what you saw in the basement, given that that was such a small area. I didn't think it made sense to have a separate, not a different color, because there would have been several. So I think for continuity, we're just gonna go with that. That is still tentatively scheduled for, I'm aiming for the second or third week in August. We have not nailed down that exact date yet, but as we did talk about downstairs, that department will need to be closed during that time, just because all of the books will be packed up. It looks like we can move most of the things into the activity room, so we won't have to pay for off-site storage of those, so that might help some of our costs. Jack Hallett from Hallett Movers was out again last week before. I did another walkthrough and had some more detail about what we want to do and, you know, moving things back once the project is completed. So we're excited. It's going to be here before we know it, I think, given everything else going on this summer. But I think once it's done, as I said, downstairs, that carpet is 40 years old. So that's all I had on the carpet.
Any carpet questions? None. How about those furnaces?
How about those furnaces? You saw them now. And I did include in your packets the building load analysis, the narrative from Air Comfort. I also have all the numbers, if anyone would like to see all the cubic foot stuff about heating. As you can see from the note from Dustin, who is our energy services representative from Air Comfort, the main reading room, which is what he was calling the big main section of the library, there is not enough cooling, but we don't have the capacity to provide that, so we're making do with what we have. The current size of the heating, though, is vastly oversized for what we need to heat this building. So we've got, I don't understand all these numbers, but.
We have too much heat
We
in
have
two
too much heat
areas,
and
not
not
enough
enough.
cooling. in
Yes,
two
I mean,
areas.
too much heat to the tune of at least half again, if
Yeah.
not more.
Mhm.
So, as I mentioned to a couple of trustees downstairs, I don't know who overheard me, I did ask him why that was the case, that they were so oversized. And he said, historically, they didn't have the technology to do as sophisticated building load analysis as they do now, and so they operated mostly off of square footage. So, they're able to take into account a whole slew of things now, the number of people that are in the building, number of computers, lights, those kinds of things that all add to the heating. Andy said that just kind of culturally, if you were, people they were more concerned about being warm than
They
being
erred
cool.
on the side of more heat than
Of more
not
heat
enough.
and not enough cooling.
Yeah.
So that's for the main room. The reference room, that room off to the far west of the building, actually has more than enough cooling, so it's fine. Also has way more heating, so the replacement of those units. What Air Comfort is suggesting is replacing the old units with the same type of unit that they've already put in for us. And I did get the actual quote from, pass that down.
Now, did they say that the old heater was about 60% efficient? or-
I believe that is what he said. Thank you. And then, this is the quote that I did receive from Air Comfort. So he had estimated that each of those units, he's suggesting that we're gonna have to do the same exact things with these two old units that we did with the first old unit that we replaced. Replacement of the actual unit itself, but then once the unit had been pulled out of the previous one, the cooling coil was rotting and rusting away, so that had to be replaced. The first unit, the total cost ended up being approximately $20,000, maybe right under. So you'll see the estimate for the replacement of both of these units was $35,800. So, they're coming in a little bit less than what I thought they would be. I was figuring it'd be around 40 because he said they would be, exactly the same type of units.
Well, they have a clause in here that says there might be overtime labor for air conditioning.
If that's their standard, that's in their standard clause, we haven't had we haven't had to have that, there hasn't been that issue so far with them. They're a very, very good company to work with. They're very upfront with us. They have worked very hard to do what is best for our situation, understanding that we have financial constraints, and have not tried to upsell us on anything, and have been very, if they're suggesting we do something, they've made very sure that both Claude and I understand why they're suggesting a certain course of action. So I've been very impressed with working with them.
I'm getting under the impression that we should do this sooner rather than later.
Yes, as several people have heard me talk about now, for a lot of the furnace efficiencies. Right now, the code for furnace efficiencies is 80%. There is a court case wending through the court system that would require anyone installing new furnaces to install 90% efficiency furnace units. In order for a unit to be 90% efficient, it's the unit itself, but also there's some venting that would need to be changed to reach that efficiency level. That would be quite extensive and expensive for us to do. So I am recommending to the board that we move forward with this sooner rather than later for 3 reasons. The first being we don't know when that court case is going to wend its way through and at what point it will go into effect. And I don't want to be caught flat-footed that it goes into effect and then we have to start redoing our ventilation. Second, the units will actually need to be turned off during the replacement of them, and so I would like to do so before it gets too hot. And because when those units are off, the air has to go off as well. So, and then we're really not sure when those units will die. So they're the same age as the one that did die last fall, or last winter, and so I imagine it's only a matter of time before these.
My only problem is that all three will be replaced at the same time, giving them the same, approximate life. And therefore, but I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
Well, I think too that, we got 30 years of use out of these.
Right.
And I don't plan on being here in 30 years.
Oh, well, I do, so.
Not at this table.
Not at this table, no, if
I'm gonna be
get out of bed, it'll
No, I understand your concern about that. I don't,
That's the only concern I have, and it's like, there's nothing you can do about it.
It
right, I
needs
mean,
it.
they were all
It has to be
installed.
done.
It has to be done,
We have
yeah.
no choice.
You don't
It's just
want to have to
frustrating
go
that
in
it's
the
a
winter.
record.
right, and that's what happened with the first one. It went in December and that filled the whole place with smoke,
Much
had to close the
better to
library.
put up with a little bit of discomfort than to have to go through.
Yeah, and those units given, the unit that was replaced was kind of an auxiliary unit, if you will, so it wasn't quite as critical to the heating of the rest of the building. It did heat a lot of the downstairs. But those two units in particular, I mean, that's the main part of the library right there, that those two units serve. So yeah, having one of those go out in the winter would be quite, I mean, depending on if they both went at the same time, we would possibly have to close that kind of thing.
Close down.
Yeah.
Is
So-
there any possibility to be done simultaneously when the youth services has
No.
to be closed?
No, because I wouldn't have, because of the location of those, I don't think that either one of those two workforces would appreciate having to work around the
I
other.
just try to,
No, you get hot in August. and
Yeah, in
you'll-
August, we're not to
That's
have to do
true,
it.
too.
Cruel and unusual punishment.
The replacement of the first unit was, I think it took 2 days, and they're very cognizant of where those units are located in terms of, off of the children's area and stuff, and they start very early in the morning. So they've been very, very good to work with and very, willing to work around their schedules and that kind of thing, so, I don't think it'll be as disruptive as the COVID.
Okay.
You're comfortable with this?
I am comfortable with this, yes.
Why don't we just make a motion, the effect that we do replace both units?
Related to that, then the money, I will pay this out of building, but then I would at a later date need the board to officially transfer some of those Illinois funds monies into that particular budget line. So I don't have that motion,
Well,
or, I mean, if the board wanted to feel comfortable doing that at this point, I can certainly
this is
do
a
that.
$36,000 expense, and we haven't gotten a second opinion or a second bid.
Not on this, we did get 3 bids on the first unit,
Yeah,
and Air Comfort was those were the bids that came in. They were people that both other bids came in, and they were just gonna replace the unit with the size we had. So Air Comfort is,
Plus they work well with the staff here.
so they were the best bid for the first unit, so it was the same company that came in lowest with the first unit. And the only company that looked at our system and said, why do you have such huge units? And made some suggestions,
Well,
so.
you're talking $18,000 for both a heating and a cooling unit.
well, it's just a cooling coil.
It's a cooling
So
coil,
it's
but
not
it
the
has to be
condenser unit,
connected.
it's the coil.
Yeah, but
Still,
it does have to be connected in order for the air to, yeah.
But still, you're getting that for commercial unit.
Did they have an opinion on the
Yeah.
condensing
It's
unit,
certainly lower.
or did they just look at the coils?
The condensing unit, I believe, is fine.
Okay.
So they did, I believe that had been replaced. I would have to check with Claude on that, Mark, to tell you for sure, but the coil itself was rusting and rotting. I mean,
Yeah.
he did show me that, but I believe the unit itself, the condensing unit itself was still in okay condition. Because I think some of the air conditioning stuff had been taken care of. So, I mean, I will leave it up to the board. As I said, I think it's probably better to move forward more quickly than not, but if the board is not comfortable at this point,
Can I bring that to a motion?
We have the money in the budget?
we do have the money in the budget. As I said, it will require, I can do one of two things. I can take this directly out of the special reserve fund where we still have $59,000 right now, and then we can choose to move more monies into the special reserve fund from Illinois funds to pay for the carpet when that comes due, because that's not till August now, and this is sooner. Right. I mean, right now, that extra money that I took out of that I didn't reinvest is in Illinois funds. It just needs to be channeled into the correct budget lines. And that's more for a bookkeeping, accounting standpoint. I mean, the money is there in the bank, it all kind of comes out of the same account. It's just for the fund balances and those kinds of things.
You budgeted for your reserve fund this year, so.
We did budget for reserve funds.
Yeah.
So you can deposit money into there.
Right, so the board could choose to do it that way as well, if you put it all into the reserve fund, however you want to do it. But right now, there is enough in the special reserve fund to pay for this if we weren't ready to move money into the special reserve fund just yet, because we haven't researched how we want to word that motion or whatever.
I would ask you to just ask this company if they could do, they're able to do heat load calculations. Can they just, for my education, give us a savings on a year-to-year basis by going from the 60 to 80% plus furnace?
I don't know if they'll have the exact numbers, they might, because
They can ballpark
we
it
actually
pretty
did
quickly,
talk
their
about that, but
calculators.
he didn't give me a number,
All
but
right.
he did indicate that we probably would see some savings, but he didn't indicate how much. I will ask if
Ask
I
them if he can
get
do,
a
they can
number.
normally calculate that pretty quickly.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of
so
curious
you
what
were
that is.
saying too, that these are more electrically efficient bulbs. Be some of the savings as opposed.
Do you want me to find that out before we move forward?
No, I think we
You're
need
just
to,
interested in knowing, I mean,
I think we need to move forward.
You do that for me, I'll do this for you.
okay.
So,
I will call Dustin first thing, or I'll email him
Weather's not
tonight.
gonna stay on December.
Yeah.
That's the new one.
So can we have a motion to
All right, we have a
accept
motion.
this proposal?
We have
Arthur?
a motion from Art.
We'll let trustee Goldstein do
I
this.
think he needs to,
I make a motion that we approve the proposal by Air Comfort to proceed replacing the two units that need replacement.
I second.
And a second. Is there any further discussions, questions, or comments? If none, will you call the roll?
Trustee Elbers,
Yes?
trustee Burke, yes. Trustee Kelman,
Yes.
trustee Goldstein,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
trustee Novick.
Yes.
Thank you. It passes 6-0
All right.
with any absence.
Okay, I will sign a quote and return it to Air Comfort, and also ask for the information that President Albers has asked for, so they can give us some kind of ballpark.
All right, other building issues.
Roof,
We don't have all night.
I know, and I'm not sure that we'll reach a consensus or any kind of, I wanted to talk to the board a little bit about the roof situation. As you know, a month ago, there was a big rain. Unfortunately, some houses, Fort Blanchard House got flooded. But we discovered a number of newish leaks that we were unaware of. And even previous to this, Claude had been noticing a couple of areas that were requiring patching. The library has a number of roofs. I know you're not shocked, given the number of little rooms that this building consists of. But the flat roof is approximately 30 years old, which, if you have any experience with flat roofs, is pretty much way beyond its life expectancy. I think they're usually about 18 to 20, is my understanding. And will probably need to be completely replaced. The sloped roofs, I believe, are 12 to 15 years old, but I'll have to find that out for sure. They're not as much of an issue, or an issue at all at this point, as far as I'm aware. We did receive one quote from a roofer that has come out and done some patching work for us in the past to replace the flat roof. That will cost approximately $50,000. That is not really out of line for flat
No, I
roof
know.
cost.
I realize
So,
that. Just-
and roofs are expensive. That's the only quote we've gotten. We've tried to get a couple of other quotes. That being said, I mostly got quotes so that I could find out if it was over the $20,000 limit. That forces us to go to bid. Obviously it is, and I do believe that we will need to go to bid for this project should we decide to move forward with it. That being said, I don't know anything about roofs. I would be hard pressed to create a request for proposal outlining what we need to do for the roof. What I'm asking the board to consider, and it's not something you need to decide this evening, is that to hire a construction management company that would come out and look at the roof, make recommendations about what we need, handle write the request for proposal, handle all the bid opening process. They would make sure that everything was bonded and insured. They would oversee the project and make sure that it was completed to our satisfaction. There would be warranties involved both for their work and for the work of the roofers. The Carroll Stream Public Library, which the library is at before this, is a 31,000 square foot building that is one big box and has an entirely flat roof over the whole thing. We did have a company come out and do that for us, and the cost at that time was about 2.5 years ago. It was $7,500, which was money well spent, I felt at that time, and would think that it would be well spent here. Again, this is not a decision that we used Comosi Construction, who did the remodel of Carroll Stream. They've done other libraries at the police stations. They've done Skokie. They're very well respected. I have not contacted them to get any kind of quote about overseeing this project, but I did want the board to consider the advantages that having a construction manager oversee the project would bring to us. I have also discussed this with Claude. He feels this would be a good idea. I mean, he knows more than I do about roofs, but this is not his field. You know, he knows enough to say they're leaking, and he can stop the leak and throw some tar on a leak when it's happening. You know, if the board does want to pursue something like that, I can certainly contact Comosi and a couple of other construction management firms to see if this is something that they would, what their quoting prices would, what their quotes would be to oversee the project for us. So I will, but again, like I said, particularly with the roof, I'm very concerned. I want to make sure that we have people that know what they're doing, and that's not me in this case. And you know, unless one of you is a roofer, that's your side job. And it is a bigger
Who did
space.
the roofing at Carroll Street?
Comosi was the construction manager for that, and then Jay Ridiford. They're a fairly big company that came out and they did the actual roofing.
Are you satisfied with that?
Yes. For the most part. They're very satisfied with work that Comosi did for them. There has been a few issues.
It's just sad to think that you have to pay $7,000 to oversee somebody who's supposed to be doing the work.
Well, they're not doing the actual work.
I know, but I'd rather spend the $7,500 suing them if they do a lousy job.
That's more expensive.
I think that is more expensive. If that's the way that the board chooses to go, that's certainly a
Who do we
decision
use
that,
for the
and that's why I brought it.
We just did the roof on the other side. In fact, who did we use there?
I don't know. I would have to look. Do you know? Off the top of your head? Yeah.
One of the benefits of the construction manager is that someone has to write the request for proposal. So they have to write the roofing spec. Now, sometimes you can get one of your prospective bidders to write your spec for you, you know, maybe they've got an inside track because they really studied the roof and things like that. So that's one of the reasons why they'll do it for you. But you know, somebody's got to write the spec. Somebody's got to take care of the publishing. Who's putting the publications in. And the other thing that construction managers will also do is they'll have a list of prospective contractors that they know are interested in these types of jobs. So they're actually helping you solicit contractors to come and submit a bid on your project. And the more bids you get, the more likely it is that you've got a truly competitive atmosphere going on, and you're going to hopefully generate the lowest possible, responsible bid out of it. But that's just something to consider.
It's worth considering. It's sad that you have to do it.
Well, maybe that's the first step, but that's something we should be doing.
Well, I think the other thing too is that, we do, given that it's been a commitment of this board, and, you know, I mean, the economic realities right now is that this is where we're staying. And as I've mentioned to this board several times as well, there is an increasing cost of just opening up the doors as we have an aging facility. And this is one of those costs, unfortunately. And I want to make sure that we're doing the best thing possible that's going to allow us to continue to use this building for as long as we may need to, and rather than slap some layers of
Patch.
tar.
I would be curious to see who put on that flat roof 30 years ago. 30 years on a flat roof is fantastic.
Yeah, it is, and actually at Carroll Stream, ours had lasted for quite some time as well. And
That's
then,
amazing, 30 years on a flat
They're probably not good
I would say they're probably not-
Probably starved to death.
I would say that if the construction management piece of this is something that the board is interested in learning more about, there are other companies that do that. I just happen to work with Camosi, and they did very good work with some other things that we had done at Carroll Stream as well, and this
That's a
was something
different
that they had done.
roof. Is this roof here smaller than Carroll Street?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So perhaps the cost.
Exactly.
Do they charge on a percentage of the job?
I don't know what they charged
Or what
for. It was, I mean, I have the quote from them. I did go back and ask if Carroll Stream would share what Camosi's original quote was, and I did see it. So I don't know, it's not clear what they're charging on. There was a lot of comfort, I know, for the library staff in knowing that there was someone overseeing the job who did know what they were talking about, and it wasn't a librarian. You know, so, I mean, you know, there's a lot of things I know, that roofing is not one of
Didn't have
them.
roofing and libraries.
No, they left that class
Mark, we
out.
need a new director.
Be careful what you wish for. No, however, as I said, if the construction management part of this is something that the board is interested in pursuing, I can certainly ask for quotes from a number of construction management firms as well, which may be the first step in the whole roof replacement process. As I said, you know, as Mr. Tennant had mentioned, that oftentimes these construction management firms have potential bidders already in mind and kind of have a built-in database, if you will. I've gotten one quote on replacing this roof. We cannot get anyone else to come out. So, I mean, there's that as well. So I want to make sure that I'm looking at as many options as I can, and right now I've got one.
Well, if we're gonna do it, we wanna do it right.
Who did you
So,
get?
I'm sorry,
Who did you get?
the quote from?
I would think that the management company's fees wouldn't be based on size so much, because what they have to do, they
I
have to
think
do
it's
when
based
there's
on
5 feet or 10 feet.
services. So for example,
Right.
there was a proposed scope of services that they made. They did necessary to manage the entire roof assessment, plan preparation, and all subsequent repair and re-roofing work for the project from this point through completion of all work. And they have a 2-year follow-up warranty period. Their services included inspection of the roof, a written report based on the inspection, including recommended repair, maintenance, and corrective work, preparation of estimates for executing the work, establishing phases to implement the work with recommended budgets for each phase, preparation of bidding documents, preparation of schedules, regular meetings with the library representatives, all permitting that was required.
So these are all,
Conducting pre-bid.
doesn't matter
yeah.
the size.
Right, they have to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, it could be the 7,500 or more.
And I don't, you know, I don't know, so,
But at the same time, they also could get us a discount on the actual roofing
Possibly.
if there's people they've worked with a lot.
the one proposal that we have received so far is from Hanson Roofing out of Evanston. This is a company that Claude has said he's worked with. They've come in and they've done some patching work for us. They've been very good about that sort of thing. I don't know what experience they have in doing more substantial roofing. So, as I said, If the construction management part of this is something the board is willing to consider, I think probably the best thing to do is to get a couple of different quotes from different construction management firms to see, you know, what that pricing is.
Who knows?
If the
between
board at that
this,
point
yeah.
decides they don't want to go that route or whatever.
You never know, between the construction manager and the other quotes, you may go 150.
Depending, my sense would be that, yeah, not,
So you're just looking for the okay to go ahead and
Yeah.
discuss this with some,
right, with the construction management
anybody
firms.
against that?
No, I think go right
I'd say go ahead with
I mean, that's not locking us into anything, it's, you know, they'll wrote a quote for us just like anything else, whether, when we accept it, then it would be the next step on to
Our
the.
leaks are apparently coming from the flat roof.
The leaks are coming from the flat roof, and as I said, we did discover there were more than we had anticipated.
And 12, 15 out of the other roof. That's got.
Yeah, I'll look into that, but I want to say it's
That
about
could have
that.
8 to 10 years left.
them.
And that's a slope roof, so it's not, you don't have the stuff sitting on top of it.
Slope, I never could understand why people.
Flat roofs. I will go ahead and do that, and then I will bring those, to the board at the June meeting.
Just like there, we had a flat roof at the school.
I look at Chicago, it's like,
Everywhere, yeah, everywhere. Maybe we should put a big park up
There's
there.
Chicago 2 flat.
Okay, so that's all I have for that, we're putting
furnace
furnace.
upstairs. We do have a garden up there.
Yeah, I did put mezzanine on here just because I know that we had talked about the mezzanine at the special meeting. And I have not, and I apologize for this, I gotten any abatement quotes for that. Some other, these other things came up and I thought that they were a little bit more important. If the board would like me to do that right now or get through the carpet and roof and furnace maybe first.
Yes. I
We
think
got enough going on.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
have plenty to juggle.
so.
This certainly isn't what I thought I'd be doing when I went into library school, so. But I just wanted to mention that I hadn't had a chance to pursue any of the abatement things that we had talked about. And I would like to get into some of these other things if the board is comfortable with that.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so, okay, thank you. New business, the closing of the library on Friday, August 16th. Staff in service.
Yes, I am asking the board to give us official permission to close the library on Friday, August 16th, 2013, for our staff and service training. We do this annually.
Do we need a motion for that?
I do believe we
Yes,
should.
yeah, so
Um,
just,
We are right now tentatively, the training, the day will consist of anti-discrimination and sexual harassment training, Code Adam, which is child safety training, some departmental cross-training as well, departmental meetings, and lunch. That's what our day is
So we're all
tentatively.
working those days.
Yeah, we do quite a bit on those days, so they're oftentimes very busy and there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and lunch.
Yes, you gotta
And
have
lunch.
lunch.
You know, it's not so bad here, but at my previous library, staff and so many people complained about the food. It was unbelievable. But, and not here though, so that was such a nice change when I experienced my first staff and service day here at Morton Grove last
The
year.
less
No
it
one
costs,
complained
the
about
worse
the
it is.
Yeah, so yes, I believe that we do need to make a motion.
so can I have a motion to close the library on Friday, August 16, 2013 for staff in service training?
I would like to make a motion to close the library on August the 16th for in-service training.
All right, and a second
Second.
from trustee Calmack. Would you call roll call?
Rashula. Trustee Novick,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
Goldstein,
Yes.
trustee Calamack,
Yes.
trustee Burr, yes, trustee Albers.
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty, the last part on new business is setting the non-resident card fee. That was in your packet, it was discussed by council. That fee would be $347.
$345.
45.
$245
Yep.
on the resolution.
And
Oh, 45.
You want a motion to adopt resolution 2013-02.
So you have a motion to accept resolution 2013-02?
Yeah, we need to accept resolution 2013-02.
And a second?
I'll second that.
All right, no further discussions. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Berg, yes. Trustee Calhoun.
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Novak.
Yes.
Trustee Alpers.
Yes.
Another 6-0.
All righty. Communications, I had none.
None this month.
Nothing here. Any public comments on non-agenda items?
A question.
You got them.
I have not yet seen on the calendar, and I may have missed it, a date or time for the next Friends of the Library meeting?
I have tried to reach Mr. Cantor several times and have not heard from him and verifying that date.
Okay.
So as soon as that I have heard from him, I will open that up, but as of now, I have not heard back when they want to do that.
Thank you.
Because I know the tentative dates that they had discussed, those were all the rooms were booked, so I suggested some alternate dates to him and have not heard back yet.
Thank you.
I have one question on communications. I can't seem to get online with the webpage that we have for the trustees. I don't know why. Would you give me that number again? Maybe I'm doing something wrong.
The email?
Yes,
It's webmail,
it is webmail,
webmail.
MGPL.
At mgpl.org. Yeah, I'm getting in.
If you'd like, Mr. Goldstein, I can have Kevin give you a call tomorrow.
You
if
could
want
email
him
the
to.
link or something.
I think it's.
It's
on
where
site.
you put it in. I use one of the top.
Mr. Burke, this is the
Things, not the
resolution for
main
the,
one
it's
that's-
not
No,
the, it's-
I don't even know what these things are called, but.
Is it,
Yes.
are you going to webmail.webbury.org?
That's on the.
I know web words.
There's no www.
No, that you don't need that.
I set mine up once that way.
Okay.
It will still go through that.
Oh,
See where it
okay.
says not here or
Because
here.
we haven't
Yes.
really turned that one off
Right.
until we make the switch over to everyone's email
No,
address
I've
is
been
changing as
using
well
that
with
for
the
my
mail is changing. as well.
Ah, this technology.
Most times I was able to get on all of a
Pretty
sudden.
soon we'll be on the move. So, okay, no more public comments. Any reason to go into executive session?
None at this time.
Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any objections? None? We're adjourned.